Hey everybody, Andrew Scott here, the host of the Keep Your Hat On podcast. I just wanted to let you know that we're taking a week off from our regular production schedule in order to do some maintenance and house cleaning and techie type magic things. But we didn't want to leave you hanging because last episode, Chris started talking to us about he and his brother doing a little bit of genetic research, and it's kicked up a few interesting things, and we now, or at least Chris does, have some results to share with you. So that's what we got in place of an episode this week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with a special guest, and until that time, remember, keep your hat on. We may end up miles from here. Take care of each other, wash your hands, wear your mask, get your shot. We're coming out of this, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, they're having me do this too. So welcome to Keep Your Slightly Larger Hat On. Bits and bobs the boys couldn't quite squeeze into just one hat. Where we're going, who the hell knows? But here it comes. So enjoy.
And we're back on Keep Your Hat On, the show where we don't even know where we're going to go, but we do know where we're going to go right now, and that is up Chris's tree without a paddle. So, Chris, last we talked, you were getting a little bit of information about your genealogy and your genetics, and we left off with, more than anything, Dr. Mark had made a comment to you, and why don't we start there?
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation, and
I don't even remember
and that's
this.
what it was it was all speculative, and Dr. Mark, I got to give mad props to you because you're a bit skeptical, and you know, don't be so sure of what you think you know until you actually know. You know, I was doing a lot of, you know, I know for a fact my brother is my brother. Well, not so much.
What?
Yeah, my brother is my half brother.
Holy cow.
And I'm not gonna dig in too far to that, except to say that he and I now both have sort of our own divergent kind of set of questions and mysteries to go investigate.
I can only imagine.
And try to learn about. But as it turns out, the theory that I had sort of cobbled together about my dad being adopted got blown wide open. Because in point of fact, my DNA does have a very clear connection to my grandmother.
Okay, so this is something that I want to circle back and touch on, and that is when we left you last time, your brother had done his and gotten his analysis back. You had just done your sample and hadn't got your analysis back. So now
that's right.
What you've got is based in data, is from your return.
Exactly. This is from my results, and you know, we got together and sorted out what it all meant. I consulted with my brother about, you know, okay, you know, how certain can we be about, you know, these particular things, and you know, where do these questions lead, and just sort of exploring some of that. Well, okay, so my dad was, my grandmother on my dad's side is who I think it was. However, I have no DNA relation to my grandfather. So that over-the-shoulder attack from the estranged family member was legit. She was sitting on a legit piece of information. It gets more interesting.
But wait, there's more.
So not only did my grandmother have an affair outside of her marriage, resulting in my father, and this was the one that caught me completely by surprise. And
yes,
I just did not see this coming. Is I am 1/4 Ashkenazi Jewish. She had an affair with a Jewish man in Asia during wartime. And so I have so many questions now.
So it's not Ovacano, it's Vakanowitz.
It's Vakanowitz.
Interesting.
Well, Shalom L'chaim.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And it's funny for me because my gut response to it was, cool, another group of people that I have a special connection to.
Right.
And that fits into kind of my personal worldview of, the more people I feel connected to, the expression is distilled down very simply. The bigger my us, the smaller my them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I was going to ask now, where does this put you in your brain and kind of in your heart as far as your self-identity?
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about during the banter session earlier, that, my identity hasn't changed. I am Chris right now. My inherent whatness is 1/4 Jewish. And, and actually it's just made me more curious about the road that led to my being here.
Wow.
Where I was sort of struggling early on with questions of identity, and that, this had been sort of so central to, the way I sort of built my idea of who I am. It's been a really interesting process these last weeks, because I've realized that plays a very, very small role in who you actually are in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an influence, it's a factor, it can explain certain things. I mean, that being said, one of the pieces of this that's fascinating to me, and I'll kind of end on this note, is as you guys know, and I think as some of our viewers know, because I've mentioned it before, I'm pretty sure, I have hemophilia. And my hemophilia is the result of a mutation. In other words, my mother was not a carrier, and I've been tested for a specific mutation, and they found it. Now, what's interesting to me, and the big question in my mind, and unfortunately we don't really have, we don't have the framework to answer the question, and we may not in my lifetime, but hemophilia is passed down on the X chromosome, and it's a recessive trait. So it primarily manifests in men because they don't have another X chromosome to offset it. Mm-hmm. And so what came down on my Y chromosome really should have no effect, except that in bleeding disorders, the very first written description of a bleeding disorder that we know of dates back like 3,000 years to Ashkenazi Jews.
Yeah, I was looking up some information the other day, and I stumbled upon information for Rosenthal syndrome. Mm-hmm. And Rosenthal syndrome is a mild form of hemophilia affecting both sexes, but it is predominantly in the Ashkenazi Jewish genome.
Exactly. And so I'm wondering if there's not some other factor on the Y chromosome that might make you more predisposed to have that particular mutation that I have.
Yeah, Robert, what were you saying, Robert?
Oh, the Ashkenazi Jews, are they like the first branch of that Jewish tree?
No, but Ashkenazism is really old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because, that First Testament, God was kind of a
dick.
Adolescent.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was a dick.
Yeah.
And so, is that possibly a smite? Because that's what he was fond of doing.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
It's out of my. I'm afraid I can't answer that one. It's out of
not so much that I've been smited, but I'm paying for someone else's sin.
Yeah, well, good thing that in my tradition we don't do that. But
yeah, mine either.
Right. Yeah.
Although it does remind me of one of my current favorite song lyrics, which is "I still owe money to the money I owe." Right.
Yeah. Well, Chris, where to from here?
Where to from here is now embarking on exploration and research, and digging around to see what I can find out. Also facilitating and working with my brother to see what he can find out about, kind of going off in his direction, and just trying to learn more about, and so it's going to be looking at comparative databases. So we're in 23andMe, but Ancestry.com has a much larger database.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I gotta
looking.
say, Your
looking at those
experience has
resources.
really got me curious about doing this.
Yeah.
I'm just
I would just offer it with a huge caution that
Get ready.
First-hand
turning
experience.
over rocks.
Yeah.
There's things down there that you can't possibly imagine.
Well, and you can't unlearn it once you've learned it. But
Yeah, exactly. There's no stuffing the genie back in the bottle.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, this really does open up a whole new realm for you, though, and I promise that the next thing that I make in my smoker is brisket for you, okay? And
Awesome.
and it also frees
Such a
you up
nice
to
boy.
actually like matzah.
Oh yeah, well, and it also explains my passionate love for rugelach. So there we go.
There you go.
Well, what a ride, Chris. I gotta say, again, it's surprising, and I'm kind of like Robert in that it sort of piques my interest in my own background, but at the same time, I might just leave that dog
Right.
lie.
Yeah.
So
Well, that certainly was more stuff, I guess. Keep Your Hat On is brought to you by the Narrowband Broadcast Network in conjunction with PodSquadPDX.com. If you've got ideas for the show, feel free to drop us a line at talkback@kyhopodcast.com. And yeah, as always, again, don't forget to like, click, subscribe, etc., blah, 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 blah. You know the deal. But it really does help us out. So do it. I'm your announcer, Michael Brumage, and I am so not responsible. Until next time, for Rob, Chris, Dr. Mark, and of course Andy, keep your head on. We may end up miles from here. Again.